Hello friends, welcome to the session on Python programming. In this session, we'll be discussing another object-oriented feature of Python programming language called as inheritance. In this session, we will see what we mean by inheritance, how the inheritance can be used in the Python programs, what are the steps in order to obtain the derived class from a base class in the Python program. We will see the types of inheritance along with some suitable example. Friends, as you know that you are viewing this session on my YouTube channel, and you can always subscribe to the channel so that you can watch many other educational videos. These videos are prepared in the subjects of electronics and computer science. So let us start the session with the question what we mean by inheritance in the Python programming language. Friends, you know that all human beings will have certain skin color. All human beings will have certain look. They will have certain height. And one can easily find that many of these attributes or many of these parameters are being borrowed from their parents. Also, one can easily find that in real life, whenever we define any concept, then that concept is being defined in a more broad way. And whenever we are using any concept, then there are many things that are being brought from the other concepts. In Python programming language, we have seen that we can define a concept, and whenever we want to define a concept, then we can make the use of a class. And whenever we make the use of a class, we know that in class we can make a combination of attributes and methods together. And when we define a class in a Python program, then actually this class is defining a kind of a concept in a narrow way. Real life concepts always have something in common with each other. Say, for example, if we consider the concept of shape, then you will find that this concept of shape is common to circle, triangle, and rectangle. Also, you will find that when you brought some parameter from the other concept to define a new concept, then that is to be called as inheritance. So as I told you, in real life, a child acquires certain properties from his parents. So this is just nothing but inheritance. But the child is not exactly same as his parent. He will have something additional, something different, and therefore he is a new human being. Similarly, in programming also, we can define a concept and we can borrow some parameters of older concept into a new concept. And whenever we do this, then that is to be called as inheritance. In Python, when the new class is obtained from the old class, such that all the data members and member functions are also available in the new class, and also we can add something new into the new class, then that is to be called as the inheritance. The new class is called as the derived class, and the old class is called as the base class. So base class is sometimes called as the parent class, and the derived class is sometimes called as the child class. So in programming, one can easily observe that whenever we go for understanding any new concept, then you will find that many of the things that we use in the programming are actually borrowed from the real life only. So whenever we make the use of inheritance, then one can easily observe that there are certain advantages of using inheritance in the programming. The first advantage is that the hierarchical classification can be easily created when you make the use of inheritance. Say, for example, if I have a classification such as education, which can be classified into different categories such as computer education, science education, sports education. Then further, we can have a classification of computer education into study of graphics, study of Windows, or science education into other categories such as medicine, space, or sports education into other categories such as baseball, hockey, or cricket. Then one can easily find that such classification can be easily achieved when you make the use of inheritance. Code can be reused for the other classes. So once you have created some base class, you have created it, you have tested it, then the same code can be used for the other classes. So reusability of the code will be an advantage of making the inheritance in the programming. Code readability also increases. So whenever we make the use of inheritance in the programming, then the understanding of the code gets increased. That is, its readability gets increased to the user or programmer. Code development time is reduced because certain part of the code is already developed, it is being tested, and therefore you need not to test it again, and therefore the development time is reduced. The performance of the code will get improved, the maintenance of the code becomes easy, and the reliability of the software that you are developing or code will also get improved when you go for the use of inheritance in the programming. There are different types of inheritance, such as the inheritance can be classified into single inheritance, then multiple inheritance, then hybrid inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and multi-level inheritance. In the single inheritance, we have one base class, and from the base class, we have one derived class, and therefore this inheritance is to be called as a single inheritance or simple inheritance. So if there is a base class A, and from the base class A, then we go on deriving the class B, then that is single inheritance. If there are more than one base classes, and by using more than one base classes, we go on deriving another class, then that is to be called as the multiple inheritance. So for example, if we have class A, class B, by using these two base classes, when we go on deriving the class C, then that is multiple inheritance. In hierarchical inheritance, we can go on deriving more than one derived class by using a single base class. So if there is a base class A, and from the base class A, then we derive B, C, and D derived classes, then in that case, such inheritance can be called as a hierarchical inheritance. When you have more than one level of inheritance, then that is multi-level inheritance. So for example, if we have a base class A, from the base class A, you derive the class B, from the B, you derive another class C. So if such type of the inheritance is being used in the programming, then that inheritance is called as multi-level inheritance. Hybrid inheritance, as its name indicates, it can be a combination of different inheritances. So for example, if I have a base class A from which B and C are the derived classes, and from B and C, I derive another class D, then such type of the inheritance can be called as a hybrid inheritance. In Python, you will find that all such different types of inheritance can be achieved through the programming. So depending upon the programming situation, you need to decide what type of inheritance you will be using within your program. Now let us go for understanding the syntax of the derived classes, or how to obtain a derived class from a base class. So this is the biggest advantage of the Python, that whatever the syntax is there, the syntax is very simple in Python. So whenever I want to obtain a derived class, then the syntax has to be written like this. Initially, we will write the keyword class, then we will write the derived class name. In the bracket, we will write base class, followed by indentation mark colon, and then we will write the different statements that is being called as a class suit, which belongs to the derived class. So here class is a keyword, derived class name can be any valid identifier. A class can inherit multiple classes by mentioning all of them inside the bracket. Say for example, if I want to use multiple classes, then in that case I can write class derived class in the bracket base class 1, comma, base class 2, comma, base class 3, dot, dot, dot. We can write n base classes, colon, followed by the class suit. So for example, if I write class employee in the bracket person colon, it means that the person is the base class and employee is the derived class. So let us try to write down a simple program which makes the use of inheritance. Suppose I have a class person. In the bracket, I will write object. So many times the base class is also called as object class in the Python. Colon. Then I will write the constructor for the base class. Definition init self comma name, where self dot name is equal to name. Then I will write another method to get the name. Definition get name self colon return self dot name. And then I will write another method or function to check if this person is an employee or not. Definition is employee self colon return false. Then you will find that we can inherit or we can derive a class by using the base class person. Therefore, this class is class employee. In the bracket, we will write person. So this is a derived class colon. And then I will write the definition is employee self colon return true. So whenever the object of this class is being defined, then it will return a true value of his employee. Otherwise, it will return a false value of his employee. So suppose an object of a person is employee is equal to person. In the bracket, I will pass the string Arun, and then I will print employee dot get name comma employee dot is employee. And then I will declare another object of the class employee. Employee is equal to employee Vivek, print employee dot get name comma employee dot is employee. So when this part of the code is being executed or run in the Python environment, then you will find that initially I will get the message Arun false and Vivek true, because Arun or the first object is of the class person and the second object is of the class employee, and therefore in the first case I will get the value false, while in the second case I will get the value true. So thank you friends for viewing the session. Hopefully you have understood what we mean by inheritance and how the inheritance can be used in the Python programs. Thank you all.